are live. Hello and welcome to a live episode of the Benefit of the Doud podcast, streaming 50% of which is streaming from Seoul, South Korea, because I am at Samsung Unpacked and I am jet lagged as hell. I'm using hotel Wi Fi. There's a lot of ways that this can go wrong, people, but here we are. Cliff, how you doing? Oh, and joining me, sorry, from the stateside is Clifton M. Thomas. Cliff, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Now I'm going to talk very loudly so that you can hear me all the way over there. I don't think that
Actually, now that
works.
you say that, I think I actually have been speaking quite loudly since I started the podcast. So I'm gonna try to tone it down
Oh,
a
you're
little bit,
fine.
tone it,
Keep it
just
down.
bring it down,
Oh, because
bring it down.
neighbors.
Well, actually, I don't even know how thick. Well, first of all, I know that way is open air because I'm at the end of the hallway.
Ah,
My hotel room is what they call in CSI as Murder Central because it's the last room in the hallway right next to the stairs. So, fortunately, I haven't been murdered yet. But I just thought that was kind of. I think about that
yet.
every time I check into a hotel.
And this is one of many reasons why I don't watch those kind of shows because then I'll always
Yeah,
be
that's fair.
thinking about those kind of things. So you
Well,
are
that's fair.
podcasting all the way from Seoul, South Korea. Wow. This is pretty
Yeah,
cool. Isn't
it has been
technology
an
grand?
experience. It really is. I mean, it really, really is. And I keep telling people I'd be really excited if I wasn't so damn tired, because, like, the first night, and you've kind of frozen up here, so I'm
Yes.
just going to keep on talking. Okay.
This
So
this
the
is
first
what
night,
this is what happened before when I had to
okay.
restart my machine. Yeah.
Well, I can carry the conversation if you need to restart again. But um, the first night that we were here, I woke up at like 2 o'clock in the morning to do, normal middle-aged man, in his 40s stuff, which is to say I had to go to the bathroom. And when I went back to bed, I laid down and my brain said, "Hey, you know what's funny? It's like 2 o'clock in the morning, but you should be awake right now." And I said, "No, no, I really shouldn't." And I said, "Yeah, yeah, it's like 2 o'clock. You should be awake. Like the sun is supposed to be up, but it's not. Isn't that really weird?" And just for context, listeners, while we wait for Cliff to rejoin us, Seoul, South Korea is 13 hours ahead of the Eastern time zone, which is where Cliff lives. So it is 7:42 in the morning here, but it is 6:42 p.m. the day before, where Cliff is. And another little fun side note about that is when I leave here on Friday, I have a connecting flight through Minneapolis, but when I leave here on Friday, I am actually going to land an hour and a half earlier than I left on the same day. So um, that is kind of messed up. But anyway, do we have a cliff back? No, we don't have a cliff back yet. So anyway, Unpacked was just last night, which for many of you was super early this morning. And so I am. I've been here since Monday night, so really just since Tuesday, and we've been doing some. Oh, there you are, Cliff. Um,
Yes.
I was I was just explaining to the people the time difference between Korea and the Eastern time zone, which is approximately 13 hours. So it's 7 in the morning for me, and it's like 6. It's dinner time for you.
Interesting.
So yeah, and the interesting fun fact, I will give the Reader's Digest version because I just explained this. When I take off on an airplane on Friday, I'm going to land an hour and a half earlier on the same day.
Wow.
So go ahead and process that. I'm still trying to come to terms with it. I originally told my wife that I'd be back on Saturday before I realized I'm actually going back in time. And I had to tell her, no, actually, you need to pick me up on Friday. Oops. So, anyway, um, so we've been doing a lot of stuff like around Seoul. Samsung has been. It took us to their humongous campus. They have like something like 200,000 some employees at this digital city where they are, and they showed us this museum of innovation, they called it, where they had a lot of like not only like Samsung tech, but they had a lot of like, this is how electricity was invented, and they had like demonstrations about that, and
Interesting.
they had these they had these cool windows with like a LED overlay over it where like you could see the thing behind it. Like they had a generator, like one of the original batteries that people used to store electricity, like back in the 1600s. Like they
Huh.
like had one of those, and it was behind the glass, but the glass itself was touch sensitive, so you could like bring up information dialogues and stuff. I mean, if you got close to the glass, you could see like there was a grid pattern on it,
Mhm.
so like it was still kind of cool. I
That
have
is cool.
It's like as we're standing there and the tour guide is giving us the information, like the windows are changing, like the different text displays are like rotating through. It was really cool. I don't think I captured any video footage of it, or if I did, I think it'll be part of the patron only video that I've been shooting for this week. Which, by the way, I'm proud of myself. I've done a very good job of capturing like little clips here and there of like the whole journey, like starting from the airport and leading up to Unpacked last night.
And you've been
So
sharing it with our patrons?
I'm gonna compile it all
Oh,
together into
okay.
one
Gotcha.
video
All
and
right.
share it. It's probably gonna be like 5 minutes or so.
Right.
Just the audio is probably gonna be terrible because in the video might not be that great because I've been doing it all with the Moto Razor. So we'll see. But it will be exclusive to patrons. So patreon.com/benefit of the doubt.
Woohoo.
Anyway.
Subscribe to watch soon.
So the first full day we were here, we did that tour of Digital City. And they showed us like, it must be really nice to be a Samsung employee because part of what they showed us on their campus was like they called it Central Park, but it's an area. They said it's the size of 6 football fields, and they mean real football, not American football. It's the size of 6 football fields, and it has cafes, climbing walls, gyms, swimming pools, and they were saying with the gyms in particular, you could actually like borrow gym clothes and like leave them, and they'll wash them and stuff. Like it was like, you know what? That actually would be a lot easier. But
It makes so much sense.
yeah, it does. It really does. But they have like, and it's all free. Like
Right.
even the cafes where you can get 3 meals a day for free if you're one of Samsung's 200,000 plus employees, I think it was that all work on this campus.
That's the thing that I think people forget about Samsung, or at least I know some people must, is that Samsung doesn't just make mobile phones and like consumer electronics
Oh yeah.
like that. I mean, appliances, heavy equipments, like
Mm-hmm.
everything under the sun, and then obviously also panels for other manufacturers besides themselves.
Yep.
They're one of the main suppliers of displays in the world. So.
Yeah. And I mean, as far as I know, the place that we visited, I don't think it has any manufacturing facilities. I think it was just like all administrative and R&D and stuff like that. So like, I don't think there's any actual manufacturing going on there. So of those 200,000 employees, there's more like spread all over the world where they're actually making. It's like Samsung is just a gobsmackingly huge company, which is pretty cool.
Oh, I forgot to mention their fabs for making silicon, like processors.
Oh yeah,
and stuff
absolutely.
Like that too. They're big into that as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Hashtag Tensor. But anyway, so after that on Tuesday night, Rich Woods from XDA is a huge baseball fan, and so it was his idea to let's go to a Korean baseball game. And I'm just like, yeah, sure, why not? It sounds like fun.
So this wasn't this was not a Samsung sponsored event.
No. And actually, what's interesting here is the baseball teams here are sponsored by corporations, not cities. So like, it would be like if I were rooting for the Microsoft Cubs, But Samsung's team is. Yeah, right. Samsung's team is unfortunately in last place, and their
Oh.
home field is like 4 hours away from here. So
Hmm.
we went to go see a baseball game for the Doosan Bears,
Hmm.
and they were playing the Giants, but I don't remember who their parent corporation was.
Oh,
Um,
gee.
and it's so I know you're not much of a baseball fan, Cliff, but like yeah, when you go to a baseball game in America, you sit there and you're like, "Yeah, let's go! Come on! All right, good job!" Or you're
Right.
sitting there like, "Oh, I can't believe you didn't catch that stuff." It is such a different vibe
Hmm.
at a Korean baseball game. I told a couple of my baseball friends, I'm like, "You're not a baseball fan unless you're a Korean baseball fan," because
Is it
like
like
let me
soccer in the UK or something, or in Brazil or
let
Mexico?
me show you a video first, and then I'm
Okay.
going to give you the context around that video. Okay, so I shot this at the baseball game. Here, I think this should do it. Okay, to give that context, I'm just going to repeat to you what Rich said to me. We were 1/3 into the first inning of a baseball game,
Oh my gosh.
and that was after one out in the top of the first. I
What's
mean,
the
like if
what's
you're
the
if you're an
seventh inning
astute viewer,
stretch
you
like?
I don't know that they had a seventh inning stretch. It got weird because right around the seventh inning it started to rain, so
Mm.
we kind of like fled back into the stands. So and they resumed the game before we got back out there. I don't know that they had a seventh inning stretch. I don't know that they needed one because I don't think anyone ever sat down.
Sat down. That's awesome.
And they had like, well, first of all, you saw they had like a cheerleader,
Yeah, I was
like
wondering,
a
was
like
that one
a
of the players, or was okay? So that was a cheerleader. Okay, leading.
I think it was a
Interesting.
cheerleader. They had four other female cheerleaders that came out and joined him after a while. The other side also had like a band leader and cheerleaders on their side. And the way that Korean baseball is organized, if you sit on the home side dugout side of the stadium, you're cheering for the home team. If you sit on the visitor side, then you're there for the visiting team.
Interesting.
Now, we did not know that. We ended up sitting on the visiting side dugout. So we went there to go see the Doosan Bears, but we turned into Giants fans because he kind of had to. Uh,
It'll be thrown out.
but and they had just all these different chants and songs. It was actually very akin to like you said, kind of like I can't speak for European football, but I've watched a few Wrexham games.
Right.
So like Welsh football, and they have like similar things, but it was still even another level above that. Like that, they had that energy level and more throughout the entire game. And by the way, at one point our team was down like 8-2, and these people were still going absolutely crazy. It
That
was
is awesome.
amazing. It was delightful. It was wonderful, and I loved it.
Uh, has it ruined you for Cubs games for the rest of your life?
No, I do not have the energy to be a Korean baseball fan.
No Korean baseball fans are fat, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't see how they could be, but it's just, and they had like, and they had all these chants that were based on like American songs, like "We're not gonna take it." They started singing at one point, but it wasn't "We're not gonna take it." It was in Korean. I have no idea what they were saying. Uh, but yeah, they had it was an amazing experience, and it was just like a slice of Korean culture that I was very happy to have
Right.
experienced.
Yeah, definitely. It's so funny.
And like,
If I think if
yeah,
I had been on your trip, I was just thinking like what would I have done instead? I mean, not that Korean baseball doesn't sound interesting, but I would have been because I'm also a little bit of a foodie, I probably would have been trying to like try all the like authentic Korean
Oh
cuisine
yeah.
that I could. That would have been my like
And and
goal.
and speaking of which, my first meal here was KFC. Uh, they have they have KFC, they have McDonald's, they have
Oh yeah.
Starbucks. They have like everything here. I was actually legitimately worried about what I was going to eat because I don't eat a lot of Korean food, mainly because I just don't have it around me. I live
Mm,
in the suburbs, you know.
right.
We're very homogenized. So, but I found a really nice pizza place that makes like these long pizza boards, which is actually kind of cool.
Huh.
And we've had breakfast every morning in the hotel restaurant. They have like all different kinds of food, but I've been gravitating towards like they have what's called breakfast steak, and I'm like, yes, please.
Well, I forget.
But anyway, and it
I
looks
forget what the Korean. I mean, there's the Korean grilled steak that you can get at Korean places, but where you Korean barbecue. But I was trying to think what it begins with like a G. Anyway, but yeah, that
yeah, I don't
bulga
know.
or something like that. But yeah, that sounds really good.
Yeah, interestingly enough, like there hasn't been much of a language barrier. Like there have been a
Yeah.
couple of stores I walked into and like it was just not possible to communicate except for like me to point at that and then put in my credit card. But in general, like a lot of people and God, Americans are so spoiled
Mm.
because a lot of people here speak English as like a second
Oh, I
language.
know.
And that's all over the world. Like I
I
know
know.
it's true in Germany, it's true in Barcelona. Like just so many people speak English, and like as Americans, we are so spoiled by that. You know?
Oh, I agree. Every time I get so just, and I'm not getting at a political thing, but when I hear certain people get mad at immigrants here in the United States who don't speak English well, I'm like, I speak none of your language, basically. Like, you're doing much better than
Right.
me. Like, it's just so arrogant sometimes. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah. The closest I get to that is I can sing the Canadian national anthem if I have to. But anyway, all right. So we should start talking about Unpacked. Unpacked it was hosted here in the hotel. Actually,
Hmm.
they had
Oh,
a
really?
ballroom. Yeah, and
Like,
they had
huge ballroom.
well, I mean, it was pretty big, and it was like theater in the round, which was really interesting. I don't know how that came off on YouTube. I don't know if you watched Unpacked,
I
because it
kind of
was
watched
like
the
7 o'clock in the
TLDR.
morning for you.
Right. I watched
But
a shortened. I did not watch it streamed. I watched the Verge's like
yeah, yeah,
the
The Verge usually
unpacked
does
eight
really great.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, like a TLDR version of Unpacked.
Exactly.
So yeah, I don't know how the theater in the round part came off on stage. It was interesting to see like the teleprompters were, and actually I don't think, halfway through Unpacked I realized that they probably weren't teleprompters. The entire event was spoken in English, and so I think what I thought were teleprompters were actually subtitles
Oh,
for the Korean speakers in the audience because like it's possible that they were teleprompters. I don't know, but they were like up in lights like and on all
right.
four sides so that everybody could read them. Um, and so we went in, and actually I have a video from inside Unpacked. It's very short. It's like 15 seconds, but may as well show what we saw as press. Let me go ahead and put that on right meow.
Right, meow. Very Korea really distorts your vision.
The resolution there was really weird because I shot it in vertical. Um,
That's the same.
for
That's the same thing that happened to me the other when we recorded the Honor 90 video, and I had the
oh
portrait mode, and that everything was distorted. Yeah, I don't know why it
yeah, yeah,
forces.
yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, that's interesting.
Anyway,
Really
yeah.
loud.
So it was loud in there. Our seats were those cubes that you saw on the floor. So that was actually kind of hard on the back after about an hour
Yeah,
and a
I'd
half.
say.
But like the sound was amazing. You could hear everything. You could hear everybody very clearly. They had a really great sound system in there. And so I was sitting with Stephen Shank, former Pocket Now associate, now with
Hmm.
Android Police. And we were probably about halfway back in the audience on the aisle, so it wasn't too bad. Our view was pretty good. They had all the videos that they showed on all four sides,
Right,
simultaneously.
right.
So it didn't matter what side you were sitting on. And the speakers slowly rotated as they spoke. So they'd say a little bit here, and then they'd say a little bit over here, and then they'd say a little bit over here, and then they'd say a little bit over here.
Right.
Oh, and it was kind of funny because when the first speaker came out, he was facing away from us for a long time, and all the media were on where we were. So
Right.
I'm like, do you really want to start off this show showing the media your ass? I mean, it was a well formed act. I will say it was tight, but
Bounce a quarter.
you could bounce a quarter. Anyway. So yeah, the event was cool. I mean, I don't know what more there is to say about it. I was very impressed with the fact that they got it down to an hour. Like it was like,
that was a lot.
considering all that they announced, they were done within an hour, and they started off with the phones, which also surprised me because I suspect there was a lot of drop off after the phones were announced. But yeah, so it was pretty cool. So I guess we could use that as kind of like a transition over into. Oh, sorry. One other thing that I should talk about is there were lots of Samsung fans hoping to get in. Like we as media were just kind of like marching past them, like ha ha ha, we can go right in. But they had thousands of Samsung fans. Like I don't know if they were like hoping to get in.
People who
there
absolutely love One UI.
There was a member of BTS at the event. So I don't know if they were there for him. There was also an actor and influencer. What's her name? Something Sweeney. I don't remember. She did a selfie during the event. She's from like Outlander and stuff like that, but she's also like an influencer in her own right, Instagram and whatnot. And so she was there. So maybe people were there to like hoping to, get a photo with her. But anyway, there were a lot of people there that really wanted to get into Unpacked, to the point where as we left, do I have my credentials here? Yeah. As we left, they actually punched a hole in our credentials here, so that we wouldn't like give them to somebody in the audience and then they could go in. Like,
oh, gotcha.
Yeah, they're like, once you leave, you can't come back. I'm like, we're done. So okay.
I guess this is mirrored so you can see it. Sydney Sweeney.
Sydney Sweeney. That's who it was. Yeah, I could not remember her first name.
Gotcha.
I barely remember my own address at this point. Like, I am so jet lagged. And at this point, I'm just kind of running with it and hoping that, like, when I fly home, it'll reset and, like, everything will be fine.
I have a feeling you're going to need a day of recouping from that. Not that you have one, but you're going to need one.
No, I come home on Friday, so I've got the weekend.
Oh, okay. That's good.
So that's going to be good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, we should talk about what they launched. I had a content capture, which is fancy press talk where they let us play with the devices and take pictures of them for 2 hours.
Hands-on, if you will.
Hands-on. And speaking of which, my hands-on with the devices went live at SlashGear as Unpacked was going down. So I guess that would have been earlier this morning for you, but for me it was last night. So I did a hands-on with the Flip and with the Fold. I will put a link to both of those in the show note. I will put a link to that article that covers both devices in the show notes. That would be the proper way to say it. I have a Galaxy Tab Ultra review coming to Forbes in the next couple of weeks. I also have a Fold 5, which my Forbes editor has right now because she's doing a hands-on post for it. Like today, but I will have that before I go home.
Okay, awesome. And then you're sending them all to me, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's definitely the plan. No, that's not the plan. But and one could actually say I have a Galaxy Flip and I have a Fold 5. So
show them very quickly.
Yeah. Whoo. Um, but it's actually been interesting because I've been carrying around the Moto Razr. That's been my primary phone because since I'm in South Korea, I had to buy international pass for T-Mobile that gave me like 5 gigabytes of data while I was here, which has been super helpful. But even on my secondary line, which I've been using for the Pixel Fold, um, the internet here is like 256 kilobits per second or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's actually kind of not bad. Like I can send emails and
Yeah,
stuff like
that's
you know,
like
I
that's
can't
like HSPA 3G.
yeah, I can't stream videos on it, but
Right.
I can send emails, I can do text messages, I can do all that. And I actually kind of wonder if there's like more bandwidth available for that now that nobody's using it.
Mm.
So but
I don't
anyway,
know, or is it artificially limited? We won't know.
right. Either way, it doesn't matter because I've been using both phones pretty much interchangeably the
Gotcha.
entire time that I'm here, and it's been interesting because I've been using two foldable phones while I'm going to an event for two foldable phones.
Right.
So
Just you're
that's
just
not an
preparing.
accident, by the
You're,
way.
yeah, I was gonna say you're just preparing yourself for your reviews. Just this is
Yeah,
how the reviewers roll. Two
this is
fisting
how we roll.
two fisting phones to prepare to two fist two other phones.
Yeah. So all right, let's talk about the phones, and I think let's talk about the devices, and I think let's
Hmm.
start with the watches, just because I kind of think there's less to talk about the watches than anything else. They've got the Watch 6 and the Watch 6 Classic that go for $299 and $399 at their base model price, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing that they said during the event that I did not have a chance to ask anybody about was they were talking about how the watches have all these different, and they were talking about like a holistic approach to health and everything
Health.
like
Yeah.
that. But one of the things they talked about was that some of the sensors have blood pressure monitoring,
Mm-hmm.
and as far as I know, like that's only barely a thing with Samsung hardware. So I want to talk to I want to talk to somebody about Samsung about the blood pressure sensor and see like how those work because as a man in his mid 40s, that is definitely something I need to pay attention to, my blood
Sure.
pressure.
Absolutely.
So I mean, honestly, that alone could be enough of an argument for me to go get a Watch 6 if it can do blood pressure monitoring reasonably accurately.
I
You
was
know,
of all the as far as the watch hardware was concerned. I mean, I think especially with the Watch 6, in
Mhm.
terms of design, it's very similar to the last two, really. The or even three.
It is,
With that real
but
minimalist design. Yeah, the
the
bezel's
bezel
definitely
around
thinner.
the is like ridiculously thinner. When you see them
Yeah.
side by side, it's very noticeable.
Hmm.
So I think the Watch 6 might actually be a good upgrade if you have like probably a 4.
Right.
Probably don't need to upgrade if you have a 5. But again, dependent on where that blood pressure monitoring, because like I know the Watch 4 could do your blood pressure through a third party app, and it was okay. It was not a great experience to take the blood pressure, so I definitely want to dive more into that and see if I can find out more about it.
Right. And I'm
Um,
really happy to see the return of the rotating bezel though on the
yeah,
classic,
yeah,
because
yeah.
I
The
love
rotating
that
bezel is
feature.
nice. It's also significantly thinner and it's very smooth. Like, you get some clickiness from it, but it's a very smooth navigation experience. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on the watches, to be honest, um, just because, I had phones and tablets to focus on.
Right.
Um, but yeah, the Watch 6 is I'm okay. The Watch 6 is a pretty compelling device, I think.
Yeah, it seems like a worthy upgrade for most people. Although I mean, for me personally, my days with Wear OS are done until I see some major improvements. Although there's two things that actually stood out for me: the fact that, and I think this has continued to be the case for a while, but the fact that in most of I think both smartwatches are Samsung powered versus using the new Snapdragon 5000 or whatever it's called, the 5000 plus, whatever their smartwatch chip that they've introduced is. Um,
Right, right.
And then I know Samsung's got a lot of customization on top of Wear OS, so we shall see.
Yeah. And once again, Samsung announced that Samsung devices will be the first to ship with Wear OS 4.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, they were also the first to
I
ship with Wear OS 3.
and yeah. So that relationship is continuing, and I think they said that there were new experiences coming to the watch, and Gmail was one of them, which kind of surprised me. Like it wasn't already there,
I know.
you know.
Maybe it's just
There was
installed by
Gmail.
default.
Yeah, and there was one other one that they mentioned that I was just kind of like, oh, that's not there yet. Okay. I mean, I haven't worn a Wear OS watch since like the Tick watch, which I only wore for about a week and a half for my review, which I should probably put the Tick watch back on. I've been traveling so much that I've been sticking with the Instinct
Mm.
Solar just because I don't have to charge it. So I think maybe when I get back, it'll be time to fire up a Tick watch or even maybe uh, brush the cobwebs off of the Watch 4 that I have.
Mm.
Let's see. Next up, they had. You know what? Do we want to do like a spontaneous unboxing here?
Sure, if you're allowed to.
I think I am. I don't see why not. Let me. If I just tilt this down a little bit, it's not going to be a great view of me, but this is the.
You've already taken the plastic off of it.
No. This is the paper. It's all paper. What's funny though is I don't have them nearby. I don't think, but you know how like on the bottom of the package there will be like those strips that you have to tear off in order to open the box.
Yes.
I actually have a sticker of those strips, like the strips that were not actually put on the box yet.
Oh,
they
wow.
Gave us the sticker.
Huh.
So yeah, I don't know where it is. It's around here somewhere. I think it's in the bag that's over on the other side of the table.
New.
This is brand new, boy. Anyway, so that's this is a paper cover. So Samsung went out of their way to point out how environmentally friendly they were.
Yeah. Yep, that's a good push.
So this is paper.
Ooh.
That's the tablet, and you could probably see my face in it. Hello. Right there. Yep, you can see my face.
Yep.
Hello. All right. So it includes an S Pen.
That's the Ultra, right?
This is the Ultra, yeah. So it's a 14-inch screen, 14 point something inch screen.
6, I think, 14.5.
It's massive.
It is.
And then here is Mr. Chargy cable. That's all that's in there, and a SIM key, which interesting. I know they have a 5G version of the tablet, but it's not the Ultra.
Does it have expandable memory?
Oh, that's possible. Yeah, that's probably what it is then. Let me see if I can find the SIM tray. No, that's a microphone. That's a microphone. Well, yeah, there's something here. I haven't set this up or powered it up or anything, so can't really show you much of the UI, but
right.
No keyboard included, which is kind of bull, but whatever. All right.
Well, what's the retail price on this? I know it's over $1,000.
I want to say it's 1,100.
Yeah, and that's without the keyboard, but it does come with the S Pens. Okay.
Yeah. So this here is the SIM tray and micro SD tray. The SIM tray is blocked off because it's a US model. They might have I'm guessing they'll probably have a SKU that's like ROW that you can pop in a SIM, but the micro SD card is on the other side. So yes, that's exactly what the SIM tray ejector tool is for. But yeah, I mean, this thing is massive, and I'm assuming the pen sticks to the back. Yep. Yeah.
Classic Samsung.
So. Yep. Classic. The camera bumps.
There. Yep. Ooh.
The camera bumps are ridiculously huge for something that you should never use on a tablet. Let me move this out of the way.
I saw the 2 microphone holes on the top there, so it's definitely gonna have like the near field microphone, like really good audio.
Oh yeah, yeah, and there's a little bit of a notch up here that you can see for the cameras.
Yeah, for the camera.
Because Apple did it, so why not?
Sure.
Let me power it on here real quick. I'm trying to. Let me turn it around so it's actually the right way for you.
So while you're booting that up, what can you talk about internals?
Not off the top of my head because I don't have the spec sheets yet.
Let me see if I can
But
find it.
it's a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. I know
Okay.
that.
All right.
So yeah, you can see the little notch up at the top here.
Mm-hmm.
Decently thin bezels, I think, for a tablet, especially a tablet of this size. The rounded corners also very nicely match the rounded edge of the tablet, so that's good. The S Pen sticks onto the back there. Yeah, so it runs the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2.
I actually have
I
I have the specs pulled up here if you would like me to read them
hit me
off.
with it.
All right.
Hit me with
Coming
it.
soon. Its releases on August 11th, the same as the phones and the watches. Which I
Yeah.
think, all right, so aluminum frame and aluminum back. If you were to have a SIM and it's nano SIM, which I mean, all that kind of stuff you can kind of expect.
Yeah.
Now, if I remember right, because it does say AMOLED here, and it's an LPTO display, but I think all 3 models now have AMOLED displays, which is a new thing for the Tab S series. 120
Yeah, they
hertz.
actually have. I was going to say they actually have the 2X AMOLED,
Right.
which is a first for all 4. They also all have IP8 water resistance, which was kind of
really
cool because in the demo area they actually had a tablet that they could put into like a fish tank, and even when the tablet was fully submerged, you could use the S Pen to draw on it, which I thought was actually pretty cool.
That's crazy.
So, it is.
Okay, so yes, dynamic AMOLED 2X with 120 hertz refresh rate, and it supports HDR10 plus, 14.6 inches, to approximately 239 ppi pixel density. Yep, got Android 13 with One UI 5.1 on board with the Snapdragon Gen 2. Let's see, it comes in capacities of 256, 512, or 1 terabyte of storage. The first 2 have 12 gigabytes of RAM, and then the 1 terabyte has 16 gigabytes of RAM. My goodness.
The other thing that they were quick to point out was that the vapor cooling chamber is 38% larger, and I don't know if they meant on the base model the Tab, or if it was just on all of them. But the cooling chamber is 38% larger, so they have better cooling on the tablet. So in theory, like you can game on this thing forever, and it won't set your house on fire.
And
which
it does
is good,
have an 11,200 milliamp hour battery. So in addition to having the better cooling, it also has a pretty gigantic honky battery in there.
Yeah, and it's actually like super thin. Like if you look at it, it's like super duper thin, and like compare it to, the Moto Razr. I'm trying to light it up there. I mean, they're roughly about the same. We don't have Mr. Caliper here, unfortunately, but
we have Mr. Eyeball. That's okay.
Yeah, we have Mr. Eyeball, and that's fine. I mean, it's a relatively light device. I would not mind carrying this in a backpack or anything. I'm actually holding it upside down. So I will be, as part of my review process, I will be using this for work, just to do my job on it, which from the Tab S8 that I reviewed for Digital Trends was very possible. Like it's very easy to use this as a replacement laptop, almost. So
did you get a keyboard case for it?
I did not. I have asked for one. I do not know if I will get one. However, I did hint strongly that my review will be much more positive if I can use it with a keyboard.
Right.
But we actually have a couple of Bluetooth keyboards coming to this channel that I could probably pair up to it. That would probably do a pretty decent job. And we can talk about that on a future video. And in the biz, that's what we call a teaser.
That's right.
So
now I love
that you're doing.
It's exactly what I was going to say. I love that you're doing that. That is like only an LG and Samsung thing. They always have, or maybe it's like a Korean device thing. I don't know, but they always have those the protective plastic on the sides that you have to peel off. So it always takes me twice as long to unbox a Samsung phone that does anything else, because they're like, and I always end up missing like one. So like a year later, I'll be like, oh,
yeah.
Anyway,
what's going on with the finish here? Oh, yeah. So all right, I'm come back to me now.
All right.
Hello. But that was a fun little
Yeah.
impromptu unboxing.
I have a different 14.5-inch screen tablet that we can compare it against eventually here.
Also coming to the podcast.
Also coming to the podcast, foreshadowing.
Yeah, that's a nice little teaser. Okay, so let's talk about the phones. And I want to start with the Fold because it's basically the Fold 4, but it
Right.
folds flat now. I mean, really, there's no other way to put it. They put a lot of design into the hinge, and it's more impact resistant than it was before. They used the teardrop shape on the yeah. I think the crease is about as good slash bad, whatever you want to call it, as it is on the Fold 4. So there's not a big difference there. It is significantly thinner because it folds flat, which is nice. I like the multitasking UI that they have going for them on the opened screen. I just, and especially after using the Pixel Fold for, almost a month now, because that's forever in terms of a tech reviewer. After using the Pixel Fold for long, I can't get behind the tall and narrow of the
I know.
of the cover screen. Like it does, there are benefits to it, and that Samsung pointed out during the event, it makes it easier to use one-handed when it's closed. Totally get that. And Samsung also pointed, or the one thing I actually noticed was because of the tall and thin aspect, when you open it up, it's so like when you open this phone up, it's a little bit more landscape than
Right.
and I've got a case on here which is probably throwing things off a little bit, but this is a lot more landscape than it is, it's meant to be like this, you can tell. Whereas with the Samsung phone, it's more of a square, but it also gives you a larger surface area to work with on the inside because it's so much taller.
Hmm.
So there are arguments to be made for the tall and thin, but at the end of the day, if you don't like tall and thin, you know what's great about 2023 is up until this year, you didn't have a choice if you didn't like tall or thin. It was Samsung's way or the highway.
Right.
But now we have the Pixel Fold, and rumors suggest that we're going to get a foldable from OnePlus, which is probably going to. I saw a Gadget.com article that said rumors suggest that the OnePlus Open will be based on the Find N2, and I rethreaded that on Threads as breaking news from the Department of Shit everybody already knows.
Yeah, exactly. Although, I mean, I've heard rumors too that it's actually its own thing and not like the Find N. And like
we're
it's a
gonna
larger.
have to see.
I have heard that it might be closer in size to like the Fold 5. So again, yeah, we'll see. Now, something that would be interesting to me. I don't know why I always think about this, but right. So battery life, right? This is like a segue for or like two thoughts in one. But you think about the fact that if I'm guessing if you could actually see screen on time for the same person with with those like the Pixel Fold and the Fold 5 or Fold 4 or just on their phone that's in that Fold 5 form factor. Wow, that's
The
a lot
vertical
of
orientation, yeah.
Right, exactly. With the thinner screen, well, I'm talking about the thinner screen on front. How much more time do people spend on the front screen with each of the two devices? Because my thought would be you'd spend a lot more time with the Pixel Fold, which also means you probably get better better battery life. Because people are opening up that inside screen more on the Samsung. So we'll see.
And
I just think that's interesting.
I was talking to Bob O'Donnell. He's an analyst, and I actually met him. Remember when I did that trip for AT&T about a year and a half ago? He was on that trip, and so it was really cool to like run into him like a year and a half later and be like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" No, I was talking to him about that, and I'm like, I thought it was interesting that one of the biggest things that I like about both the Pixel Fold and the Motorola Razr is how much you can use these phones on the outside screen without having to open it up. So it's just kind of weird that the value proposition here is don't unfold your phone. you know, like we've given you this really big screen that that you wanted because it's a foldable. Now go ahead and don't use it.
Well,
Like it seems to me that it's just so deeply weird that that's the value proposition that we're working with here.
that is true, but also consider for the manufacturer how the other benefits, right? You're not opening it up as much, most likely, which means less wear and
So
tear
less
on the
wear and tear.
hinge, less wear and
Yep.
tear on the micro thin glass. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Something that I remember hearing is it's got that shock layer underneath the glass this time from Samsung to
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
prevent what has been a pretty bad problem for Samsung's foldable and flippable devices. The glass cracking and
Mm-hmm.
thing where the display having to be replaced. So
Right, right. So it'll be interesting to see, what that's like, and you can watch for my Fold 5 review on Forbes coming probably in a couple of weeks.
right.
So that'll be cool. I'm hoping to be able to set up the phone so I can use it on my flight home, but at the same time, it won't be fully set up, so I don't think I'll be able to use it all that much on the flight home. But and then let's talk about the Flip 5, which I think has the most differences but from its previous generation
Right.
than any other device that we saw. And it starts with that cover screen. And philosophically speaking, and I want to get your thoughts on this too, Cliff, because you have the Motorola Razr, so I'm interested to see where you land on this. Um, the cover screen is larger, not as large as the Motorola Razr. It's a 3.4-inch screen as opposed to a 3.6-inch screen. And one thing that Motorola was quick to point out was that Samsung is only offering a very curated experience for that
Mm-hmm.
cover screen. It's not going so far as to not allow you to do apps on the outside the screen, but it has a certain select few. And I made a mistake in my hands-on post for SlashCare because I didn't realize this until later. But when I was looking at the Flip in the content capture session, I noticed there were only 5 apps that were optimized for the screen. There was Netflix, YouTube, um, Messenger from Google, Messenger from Samsung, which I thought was kind of hilarious. And then what was the last one? Anyway, 5 apps. But
Why
it occurred.
why out of those two are video apps the ones they decided would be best for the cover screen?
I
Anyhow,
don't disagree with your reasoning there. But of those 5, those are the 5 apps that were, blessed by Samsung to
right.
be, turned on for the outside screen. But it also occurred to me that those were demo devices that didn't have like a full range of apps installed on them. So could WhatsApp work on there? I don't know. Could Facebook Messenger work out there? I don't know. It didn't occur to me until later, and I should have clarified this in the hands-on post that those 5 apps were among the apps that were already installed on these review devices. Now, if I were Samsung, I would take every damn app that was optimized and make sure it was on those demo devices so that you could see, look at all these apps that you can use.
Right.
So maybe it is just 5. I don't know. I'm going to need to examine that further. Now, Samsung was quick to point out that you can use a separate app called Good Lock that you need to download. And we've talked about Good Lock a little bit. I haven't used it a ton, but I think you've used it a little bit.
Some, yeah.
You could use Good Lock to put basically any other app on the outside screen. I could not get that to work in the content capture session, and I wonder if maybe it's just because Good Lock isn't quite ready yet. We're still 2 weeks away from shipping.
Not even
So there's a lot that can happen.
software yet, most likely. So
Yeah, not on final software, etc. So I wasn't able to get Good Lock to work. But even so, Motorola has more of a spaghetti against the wall kind of approach. Do whatever you want, and maybe it won't work, and that's okay. You could just turn it off. Whereas Samsung is more like is more Apple-like in saying these are the apps that we have blessed. You can use these, but if you're a nerd and you really want to do other stuff, then you can go into this setting and this setting and download this setting from our separate app store, and then you can do any app that you want as long as you're willing to go on Reddit and learn how to do it. And honestly, the people that want to have every single app on their home screen are probably the type of people that will jump through those hoops.
Right. Exactly.
But I was I was kind of wondering how you felt about that. Like the Motorola versus Samsung
Right.
approach.
I mean, I personally love that. It, philosophically, I just think Moto is, I mean, extremely different than Samsung when it comes to their approach to software in general, and most of their add-ons are like very tangible um, stuff that is purposeful, right? Whereas Samsung has
Right.
always been the kitchen sink approach to software. So I would also expect by that extent, like if Motorola is going to make a with with their front screen, it would be more open, right, from the get
Right.
go. Um,
Right.
yeah, I
I don't know because Samsung's been leaning more towards the Apple philosophy of late.
well, that's
Like
what I'm
really
saying.
care.
I did I
Yeah.
say Samsung? I meant to say Motorola. Was
Maybe
it
I don't remember.
being more open? No,
I'm so
instead no.
freaking tired. I have no idea.
Well, I think here's the thing. I think more people might actually that are phone buyers that aren't phone nerds, just someone that's in the store
Hmm.
aren't going to care too much about running a whole bunch of apps on their screen, and might actually
Right.
prefer that limited approach that, while a lot more than their previous flip devices, is just a larger screen and a more like a smartwatch in terms of their
Hmm.
approach to, widgets and things like that, which the flip
Yeah.
does too. So me personally, I prefer Motorola's approach. um, I think most people are going to be fine with what the flip is, especially when you consider, like, let's just
With
say
what
you're
Samsung's offering.
yeah, like if you own a flip 3, this is probably a worthwhile upgrade now,
Oh yeah,
because of
absolutely.
the huge screen, and obviously the hardware upgrades too.
Yeah.
You know what, I'm surprised. So I know that because we going back to the Fold, the camera hardware was, I think, if not exactly the same, it's a very
It
similar
was
set of
exactly the
cameras.
same.
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
I didn't hear about the cameras for the Flip. Is it similar to last year's, or is it also upgraded?
From what I understand, they're basically the same. Although it should be mentioned that, and a couple of journalists pointed out that the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 has a totally new ISP,
Right.
image sensing processor or image. I'm so tired. Anyway, it has a different ISP, so it's going to process the images
Mm-hmm.
differently, and in many cases better. So it probably will have upgrades in that respect. But yeah, from a hardware standpoint, from what I understand, it's basically the same thing year to year,
Yeah,
which is a little disappointing to be honest.
it is. I I mean that both of these devices, the Fold 5, actually all of them, more so the phones, are extremely iterative outside of the
Hmm.
Flip's upgraded screen. But I mean, from a purely like hardware design standpoint, not talking about the internals, all of them are very similar to what they've produced in the past. And I mean, if you look at, again, you talked about Samsung having a more Apple-like approach to their software. If you look at it in terms of just being iterative in design, I mean, that's Apple's approach in many ways with their hardware over the last like 10 years.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and
it's
but
because,
it's
a phone, like, is it, when you look at the form factor, it almost becomes like its own signature, that physical presence. So drastic
yeah.
changes mean that it's not recognizable in the wild. I understand the approach, even if I don't necessarily like that. My brand new $1,799 phone is going to look the same as something that somebody bought a year or 2 years ago.
Well, it'll look the same except it'll fold flat,
It's true.
which is a significant upgrade.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a significant upgrade, and as I pointed out in my hands-on, it was something Samsung had to do because everybody else
Yes.
folds flat now, and so there was no way Samsung could get away with not folding flat.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
agree. That is
but
definitely a huge thing. It's also better for a little bit better for dust and grass and stuff like that too, I would think.
yeah,
Just not because that
yeah,
pocket lint tends to get in, but you have it in your pocket and then you take it out and you're like, wait a minute, Why is my
right?
inside of my phone all covered in dust? Anyway,
Yeah,
Adam's gonna fall
exactly.
asleep.
Okay,
Adam's
well,
about to pull a
I
Ryan
am
St.
gonna fall
Andre.
asleep. I'm gonna pull a Ryan if we don't wrap things up, and we're approaching an hour,
Yeah.
so it's about time to go ahead and shut things down. So,
Agreed.
overall, it has been an amazing experience coming to Korea. Love to come back. It's a very nice city. The architecture here is beautiful, and it's like they've got tall modern towers next to temples that were built 500 years ago.
Right.
It's
Like a
really
Buddhist, like a
amazing.
Buddhist temple.
So it's very cool. The hotel here is very nice. I have a bidet, which I'm very excited about, because yeah. Um, and I actually do a bit of a room tour on the Patreon video as well. So if you want to see what's up with that, you can go to patreon.com/benefit of a doubt. But yeah, overall, it's very cool to have been here. Going to Samsung Unpacked was kind of like going to a concert as opposed to watching a concert on a YouTube video. Like,
Right.
you might actually have a better viewing experience watching it on video, but being there and being part of the collective experience was pretty exciting.
Yeah, I can see that. Plus, you get to see a Korean baseball game, which is not something I
Which is
even knew was a thing. So
which is freaking amazing.
yeah,
It was such a trip. Like, and just, like, there's a lot of Korean culture that, like, definitely is in tune with my vibe. Like, there's just a lot of stuff here that is I'm on board with it. I'm here for it. It's really cool. It's very different than what I'm used to, but I'm okay with that. Like,
he
it's
is,
probably different in a better way.
folks. He heard it here first. He has abandoned heavy metal and now loves BTS and Korean pop and K-pop culture.
Never said that. Never said that. Not a word of it. But anyway. All right. So let's go ahead and wrap her up here. Cliff, thanks for coming on and chatting with me. And for everybody else who's watching, that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. And we never actually said this, but this was our Doubting Thomas for the month of July. So, or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. We'll think. There's so much more other stuff that we could talk about. But anyway, please consider subscribing to this podcast if you enjoyed it. And if you really enjoyed it, go ahead and write a review or a comment down below. That would be awesome, especially if you're watching this on YouTube. Click on that subscribe button so you can be notified of new episodes and reviews as they drop. And if you want some early access and you want to get a look into the life of a reviewer and do some, answer some questions and do some BTS stuff, behind the scenes stuff, not K-pop, you can jump on the Patreon at patreon.com/benefit of the Doud. I'd like to thank co-producer Cliff for all of his hard work behind the scenes, but most of all, and as always, I'd like to thank you for listening and for giving us the benefit of the Doud.
The Doud.
Of the Doud.